Hi, my name is Rüdiger Hahn. I'm a professor for sustainability management at the Heinrich Heine University in Düsseldorf, Germany. And as a professor, I'm working a lot with literature, with academic knowledge. I'm producing academic knowledge myself. And for that, I need to build on the knowledge that's already out there, the academic knowledge. And to do that, you actually usually use academic databases, literature databases, to identify relevant studies in your field, to identify knowledge, and so on. And in this video here, I'd like to show you how you can use these databases, how to work with these databases, how to identify relevant knowledge, and to effectively use different search strategies in these databases. So I'm going to use the Web of Science here as an example. The Web of Science is a well-known academic literature database. There are others out there as well. But if you master here, for example, the Web of Science and apply some of these search strategies, you can apply them in other databases as well. So you can take this basically as a role model. Sometimes you have to adjust a bit, of course, your search strategies, your search operators, and so on. But basically, they are all working quite similar. So let's take a real-life example to enable me to show you how these databases work. Assume that I'm looking for literature on so-called social businesses. So what are social businesses? Just in a nutshell, social businesses combine environmental or social goals with a financially sound background. So they are usually flagged as for-profit companies, or at least companies that are not non-profits, so they are not charities, but they have a business model, a working business model. But with these business models, or their business model, they want to achieve societal or environmental goals. So if you're working in these two worlds here, basically in the societal world and in the business world, we can assume that you might need specific competencies, because you kind of have to live in these two worlds, deal with certain challenges, with these sometimes conflicting goals, financial goals, social goals, and so on. And assume that I would like to know whether employees, managers, and founders of these social businesses need or have specific competencies to work effectively as managers, employees, founders, and so on of these kind of companies. So that's the starting point that we have, and I would like to identify literature on this topic. So let's start very general here, and I'm going to start with the first search term. I'm going to enter it here. I'm going to search for social businesses and competencies. So let's try that here. You can see that we identified quite a few results, 1,000, a bit more than 1,000 hits that we have here. But we also see here, if we see that here and sort it by relevance, that there are probably quite a few that are not so relevant for us, so that we have to define it further and come up with a more fine-grained analysis here. For example, here you see that one here is core competencies in marine business educators. So that's not really related to my topic, although I sorted here already by relevance. So the most relevant articles should show up first here, and then we have, for example, here social competencies and new product development performance. That's also not really related to what I'm searching for. So let's try to improve this search term here a bit. And what I usually do, I usually go here for this advanced search. So you see here now this advanced search screen, and you here have my original search that I had here. So what I'm going to do next is, first I'm going to change this operator here. You can see all here the field text here on the side, and the all operator and tag basically searches in all different elements that are somehow coded in the database. This includes here, for example, province and state, country. It also includes something like journal names and so on. So that is probably a bit too generic. So I'm going here for TS, and TS searches for specifically for the topic. In some other databases, this is then title, abstract, and keywords. For example, in the Web of Science, the TS isn't called title, abstract, keyword, but topic, but it's quite similar. So let's try this here, and let's just go for another change here. You see that I wrote here social business and competencies. In this case here, the search term doesn't search for specifically the term social business, but for social and business and competencies. So if you do not use the parentheses here, then the search is much broader because it independently searches for social and business. So that's why I'm going here for this parenthesis. So it specifically searches for exactly the term social business. So let's try that again, and we're just arriving at 3 results here. So that is really narrow in this case. So we probably need to broaden it a bit again because we're losing lots of relevant articles here. So let's get into that here again. And now let's take a few moments and think about, okay, what could we do differently? Probably we could expand the search in terms of using different synonyms, for example, for what we are searching for. Social businesses, for example, are very often also named sustainable businesses or social ventures or social startups, social enterprises, or we can also think about the term social entrepreneurship, which is very often used in the literature to describe the entrepreneurs, the founders behind these businesses. And that's something that I would also like to be interested in the competencies of these founders and so on. So I prepared a different search term here, and in this search term you see here I included lots of synonyms for social business. So sustainable business, we used ventures in sustainable and social ventures. I used here the startups and so on. And also you see here I used social enterprises, and I used here the asterisk. And that's the case, or I do use this because I would like to search for everything that is social enterprise and then whatever is coming. So enterprise with a Z and with an S, depending whether you have American or British English, so that you can cover both. Or, for example, here for the social entrepreneur as well, so that we can find social entrepreneurs, but also social entrepreneurship, for example. So that would all be included in this new search here by using all these synonyms and also these asterisk operators. You can also use other ones. For example, if you would just want to exchange certain letters, but let's take it like that. So that's most important. You can also search for these other operators by using the help here Web of Science, but this is just so that you get a general idea of how this works. Okay, let's do that again. Click search here, and now we're arriving at 79 results already. So we are a bit broader. But let's assume that the literature out there is even more broader. And one thing that I would like to mention already here, these 79, these are I'm almost 100% sure that not all of these are relevant for your topic, because you're searching for keywords, and you're searching for keywords quite broadly here with this topic search. A more narrow search would be a title search, for example. And that also means that you're going to find articles that are a bit further away from your topic, that just coincidentally appeared in this search here because they somehow also use the different search terms in these combinations that you have here. So you always have to assume that here is not your final your final results table, but this is more of a broader results table here that you get, and not everything is relevant for your search. So I call this here the gross hit ratio, basically. So you have 79 gross hits, but these are not going to be the net hits that are relevant specifically for your topic. So let's try something else. So what else can we do here to broaden this a bit? And we can also think about broaden it on the other side here and with the competencies, because competencies is not the only potential word that relates to what you're looking for. On the one hand, it's competencies. It could also be competence or competency in singular. And you could then here use again the asterisk here. Let's see what happens here. See, you're already increasing here your sample. You're almost doubling it. But then again, that's not all, because there might be other synonyms here. So not only competencies, but here I just copy and pasted here another search term. For example, skills, knowledge, cognition, or cognitive constructs. That's all related to this area of cognition and so on. And you see that I in this bracket here now I have all the keywords related to, well, basically competent skill. I combine them with the or here. Let's do that here in large letters, capital letters, so that it's easier to see. So this is all connected with an or. So if any of these search terms is in the topic of the literatures, then they will be shown as a result here. And here you have the same here for the other one, and that is this one here. And these are the synonyms for social business, so to say. And with this and here, I'm combining both these large parentheses so that they find only those articles that have either one of them and either one of them of these keywords here in the topic. So let's try again. And you can see that that really results in lots of other articles here. It's more than 1,200 already. So that was kind of successful in broadening our results. However, we don't know yet whether that was really successful in terms of also finding the right results. What you always can do then is to double check, okay, what was the keyword here that actually results in the most hits here, or in the differences or whatever, because we had about 140 before just with competencies. So let's just try here again. So what happens, for example, if we just go for skills or skill, and you can see that that results in more hits than the competencies. And you can do basically the same with all the others separately as well, to see how good or bad the search on each and individual keyword was. So very often it's really a trial and error kind of process to see which keyword or which additional keyword and so on brings you good or bad results in terms of what is the difference between the two keywords if you compare them, and what kind of results does it yield. So let's go again here with this 1,200. And now let's go to something different. First, I would like to show you a bit the difference here with these operators. So TS here, that is, as I mentioned, the topic. So that's rather broad. It's searching in, for example, titles, abstracts, and so on, keywords. A pure title search would be much more narrow. So in this case, if you're just searching in the title, the database shows you only those results where these keywords here in their combination appear specifically in the title of the respective article. Not in the title of the journal, but in the title of the article. So let's try that here. And you can see that here this just results in 72 hits, gross hits. But you can assume that these 72 are probably have a better gross to net ratio when it comes to what is relevant really for your topic, because you're searching much more specific in the title here. For example, this already gives you a good idea: competence frameworks of sustainable entrepreneurs, a systematic review. Or does knowledge management explain the poor growth of social enterprises? So these seem to be relevant from a topic perspective, from a topical perspective. While if you're going for the TS here, you see that you just end up here, for example, the first one is social entrepreneurs research, past achievement and future promises. So there might be something on knowledge, on competencies in there as well, but it's probably not as specific as the others that we found here. And that brings me to another thing here, and this is this sort by feature here. I'm currently sorting by relevance, and if I do this, then the database sorts these hits here, the 1,200 gross hits, according to what the database thinks are the most relevant for your search. And this is kind of good because it gives you a good idea of how good or bad your search was in the beginning. So you can just scroll a bit here and you see that here you have something like determinants of social enterprise performance, role of passion, competency, and legitimacy. And also here you have something with social enterprises, entrepreneurial competence, and so on. So this looks quite good, so that you have something in here that is probably relevant for what you want to know. If you just assume that you're not searching for some knowledge, because that's already quite helpful here to identify a bit of knowledge on social business and competencies, but let's assume that you really want to conduct a literature review, so a full-blown systematic literature review on the topic that I'm talking about all the time. In this case, I'd now advise you to sort it not by relevance. So the relevance is always good to give you a first idea, but sort of somewhat different. For example, I'm very often using date here, news first, or you can also search by author name or whatever. But let's go with date here. And in this case, you see that already the first hit here is probably not relevant for the topic, a case of design-based research methodology to create curriculum for an entrepreneurial thinking course. So yeah, well, I mean, there's social enterprises here somehow in the abstract, but that doesn't look too fitting. So in this case here, this sorting by date helps you to do something different now. So what I usually advise, for example, my students to do is to sort this here by date and then go through the first, say, 20 or so hits that the search generates and determine for each of these hits just by reading the title and, if necessary, also the abstract. You can see here the abstract of the article as well. And determine by reading title and abstract whether or not this article would be relevant for your literature review for your topic. And in this case, you would say, okay, that's not relevant, and so on and so on. You go through all these here, and then you have a rough idea of how many articles are relevant. So if you're going for like 20 articles, or say you look through the first 100 articles. So just title and abstract of the first 100 articles. And of these 100 articles, let's assume that 10 are relevant for your topic. So you deem 10 relevant. So then this enables you to basically calculate how many of the gross results here are relevant for your final literature review. And in this case, if you have 10 out of 100, then it's probably going to be something like 120 out of 1,216. And this gives you an idea of how large or small this literature review would be, just as an idea. So what I would like to do then, and that's basically then towards the end of this short introductory video here of how to use these databases, is here this left side here. So you can now restrict the searches to certain aspects. For example, you could restrict the searches here to different publication years. Let's extract that here, and you see that there are articles in these 1,200 gross hits from 1992, 94. There's no 93 article published in 93 in there, and you can basically see that all here. And then you can say, if you just want to get the newest articles, you can refine that to here, these newest articles, or you could say, nah, I would like to just have the all the others and not the newest ones, and exclude the newest ones. That would be possible to refine it here. I usually advise my students not to refine by a publication year, only if the publication year is relevant in terms of that it somehow influences the topic of what you want to know, the topic of your search. Then restricting the publication years might be helpful. For example, if you are searching for literature on some influence of a regulation on whatever, then it probably makes sense to restrict it to the year when this regulation was introduced or whatever, because then the older articles are probably just there by coincidence, and you can save yourself some time in searching through all the old articles which cannot be relevant because the regulation was not in place yet. Or for example, if you're searching on the influence of artificial intelligence on sustainability management, then you probably don't need to see through all the articles from 1976 or whatever, because artificial intelligence wasn't relevant at that point of time. You can restrict it then as well. So that was for the publication years. What I usually do if I'm going for a literature review is I restrict it to articles here, or review articles. That also includes scientific articles and review work, so that might be helpful as well. And as well as early access. Early access means that the articles and the hits here that I found are not yet published in a final issue of a journal, but that they are published ahead online, and most of the time these are relevant for you because these are the most up-to-date knowledge. So I usually refine it to those here. I personally usually leave the book chapters out, proceeding papers, because in my field, sustainability management, we rather go for the articles because these are usually of higher quality. They have a review process and so on and so on. That it's not perfect, but it's something that I usually do to filter here to these. So that excludes a few articles, as you see here on the top. And what I usually as well do is I restrict it to English language because I cannot understand Spanish, Russian, French. I could do German, but I usually restrict it to English because this is basically the language of science anyways. And most of the articles that are published in any other language are in journals that are not too relevant usually. That doesn't mean that they are bad or whatever, but for literature use, I usually refine it to English to also make it more approachable for me. What you could also do then potentially is you can sort it by categories here or exclude certain categories or whatever. For example, in this case here, you see that there are lots of categories here. For example, there are articles from the area of music or parasitology, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing, or thermodynamics or whatever. And I know that that's not relevant here for my topic, so you can then, for example, either exclude these that are not relevant or restrict it to those that are relevant for your topic, so that you also can get rid of some of the hits that are not relevant that you probably know that are not relevant if you go for thermodynamics here, for example. Let's just do it the other way. So I'm going to take this thermodynamic, it's one hit here, one paper, and I'm going to refine it here so that I have just this one here. So it's only the one that came up with these keywords here, but from the area of thermodynamics. So assessment of small modular reactor marketing using modified networks, dynamics-based system, then blah. I can't even understand the title, so really not my topic. But you see that it appears here because it's social business matters somehow. So that's obviously different than what I was thinking of social business. And here it's forecasting skills. That's why it appears in the search, but it's really not relevant for me. So I could basically just go ahead and exclude it here already from the search, so that it doesn't appear in my search term. And you can do this with all the others that are not relevant for you as well. However, just one thing that I would like to point you here towards the end is that I already restricted it to the so-called Social Science Citation Index. That's basically a sub-database of the Web of Science. The Web of Science also has a science citation database with all the natural science in here, and this is here the database for the social sciences, so that most of the hits from natural science are not in here already by restricting it to the Social Science Citations Index. You can also search in the other databases, and in this case it would even be broader. So most of the time, or very often in the Web of Science, is not really necessary to restrict these topic areas, the subject areas any further, but it might be even more relevant, for example, in other databases such as Scopus or EBSCO or whatever, because they are searching even broader here and beyond the social sciences. Okay, and then just a few things that might be interesting beyond search strategy. What I really like is here this copy query link. If you do that here, you have a permanent and link that brings you specifically to this search here with all the restrictions. So if you want to share it with someone, you can just share the link, and this person then arrives at exactly the same search with exactly the same results. So that is really helpful. And what's also helpful is if you go back here to the advanced search button that was here in the beginning. Oh, sorry. There we are. Then you find here, again here, all these operators. So interesting and helpful here again to build your searches. You find here the search help. So that gives you some more ideas of how you can use the operators. For example, there are also other operators like not, if you want to exclude certain keywords and so on. And then you see here your history of searches. You see, I started here in the at the very bottom here was social business and competencies. And I somehow refined it, and you can see how also the hits here developed over time, and so on and so on and so on. You have the links here to the queries, and you can change it, and you can also create an alert. So if you did this search here and say, okay, I'm going to leave it for a week or whatever, then you can create an alert so that you get notified if there's any new articles for this specific search coming up in the database in the future. So these are some helpful elements that can actually be quite useful if you're searching in that area or in any other areas that might be relevant for you. Okay, that's it. That was just a brief introduction to some of the elements here of the Web of Science database. As I said, you can use them in other ones, in other databases as well. And I hope that was useful for you to arrive at better results for your own searches in the future.